Greetings, everybody. I'm Jeremiah.
That's him.
She's Vania.
That's me. Welcome to another episode of the Beard and Curls podcast, where we talk about dating, relationships, marriage, mental health, and so much more.
Before we proceed, smash that subscribe button if you're watching us on YouTube, or be sure to follow us on your favorite platform for more great content going forward. So what are we talking about today, love?
Today we're going to be talking about dating in LA.
Trust me, it's going to be wild. Cue that intro.
What's up, guys? It's your girl, Margot Bingham.
Karen Parsons.
You're now tuned in.
You're now tuned in.
You are now tuned in.
You are now tuned in
to Beard and Curls.
Beard and Curls.
Beard and Curls.
Beard and Curls.
Beard and Curls. Keep it locked.
Our guest today is an actress, model, scriptwriter, and an all-around content creator in LA. Her goals are to inspire, connect, and uplift people through her art and public appearances. She's a family-oriented Southern girl with an old soul and faith at her core.
You know her, you love her. Sidney, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
All right, so let's jump right into it. So we're going to be doing a deep dive into LA dating. So what is the dating scene like right now in LA?
Right now, with the quarantine and the stay-at-home order and all of that, it's very, very interesting. So I've had friends who have quarantine dates where they share their screen on Zoom and they'll be watching the same movie and they'll kind of coordinate where they drink the same wine, they kind of make the same meals. And so it seems like they're in the same space. So that's one option. Another option, a lot of car dates, because you can't really go anywhere. Now the restaurants are opening up, but there's talk that they may close down again. So you just Lysol down the car, hop on in with your mask and gloves. And eventually, when you feel comfortable enough, you will take your gloves and masks off and you just have a conversation. But I've noticed that car dates are my favorite. I never knew you can have so much fun in a car. You can just sit there and just talk for hours. You can drive around and there's overlooks of the city. Those are breathtakingly gorgeous. And just sitting in the car, you can get a little to-go meal and just talk and eat in the car. And who knew that could be so much fun?
So when you say like car dating, are you talking about like drive-in theaters or like Sonic, or what are we talking about?
Sonic. I forgot about Sonic. Oh my gosh. So when I had a car date for the first time in the quarantine, I was so nervous. I had not left my house in almost a month straight. Like literally, I stocked up on food, so I did not have to leave for a month. And I was presented with this car date idea. So what we did, Lysol down the car, made sure both of us had been quarantined, and we just sat in the car and talked. And we literally talked for 7 hours straight without realizing, the sun was about to come up and we didn't even realize we had been talking that long. And then eventually we continued to have these little car dates. And then we were like, okay, instead of just sitting outside of your building, how about we actually go somewhere? So we would drive up to the hills, like the Hollywood Hills or the Valley Hills, and look at the entire city at night. So all the lights and everything. You can go to the LAX and just watch the airplanes come and go. And we would just sit in the car and we would just order food, or I would cook a little meal and pack it up like a picnic. And we would just sit in the car and we would just watch whatever or just talk, people watch. And that was our time. And we learned so much about each other because you're taking away all the distraction of everything else around you, So it's just literally you and that person in a car.
It's interesting because when you think of quarantine dating, at first it may sound limiting, but when I hear you describing what it means, it's almost like it's focused way more on quality.
Yes, 100%.
We're talking a lot about quarantine dating. So how is it normally pre-quarantine? How is it for the most part?
Oh, okay. So I'm from the South. I'm from Virginia. And over there, I didn't do a lot of dating, but the values I see are different than here. Even though everyone in LA is a melting pot for the most part, there's so much of the hookup culture here. there's so much of the, I don't know, or let's just chill type of, I don't even know what to call it, like conversation here. And I'm not used to that. I'm used to people being very intentional. Hey, I like you. I would like to get to know you more. Can I take you out? Yes or no? And then you move on from there. Here, I've seen so much of the instant, like, oh, well, I'm just going to scroll, find a chick, and that's it. And I'm not up for that. I'm not that type of chick. And I've noticed that it was harder here to find really intentional men to really have that deep conversation with, that we're both like-minded, goal-oriented, wanting the same things. And honestly, if you go into the financial aspect of it, the stability, it's very hard to live in Los Angeles. So I've had more experiences here where people are like, hey, I like you, but I can't take you out right now. I have to either pay my rent or take you out to dinner. Like I can't do both. So I've had those conversations where I'm like, oh, well, I guess we don't have to go out, or we can like just go to the park. Like, like I've experienced that I've never experienced before, that type of like struggle of. So it's been very, very different and very stretching for me here that I've never experienced back on the East Coast.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think it's so hard for people to connect on that deep level?
I think that a lot of the media has to do with it. A lot of what we're pumping. I've always said you have to be careful of what you're feeding yourself internally in your body with food, and then also what you're feeding yourself in music and in TV. And sadly, a lot of the culture that's going on right now, that's all you see. You see that instant hookup culture. You see, oh, I'm just going to have sex and that's it. You see people cheating on people, bouncing off to different people left and right. You don't really see, it's very rare, that connected, that chemistry that you like dreamt of when you were a little girl, or you saw back in the day when two people saw each other and within a week they were married. You don't have those romantic situations anymore. And the music is just promoting that even more. Not saying that these shows or the music or the artists are horrible or they're wrong, or that I may not even listen to those on the radio at times, but it's really important to know what you're feeding your brain. And if that's all you're surrounding yourself with, I can believe that it will infiltrate your thoughts and your motives yourself. And I think that that's one aspect of it. And then two, because it is so difficult and because people are so willing to go with the flow with that, like, oh, you just want to do that? Okay, well, I'm down. Then it gives them that excuse. It gives them that leeway. No one is putting them in their place or holding them accountable. So then when they meet a person like me, and I'm like, oh, heck no, they're like, oh, wait, that's not okay. I'm like, no, it's not okay. Like I desire X, Y, and Z. And it's not that I want something huge anyways. It's just the standards, like the simple basis of like what a building friendship and hopefully a relationship would be, It's nothing grandiose.
Wow. Yes, I understand. So you said like when you express your desires, right? So I'm trying to picture like these guys are very used to not committing. So that's their culture. So when you express your desires, like how do they normally respond? Is it like overwhelming, or do they embrace it? Like how does it usually go?
They've been like, oh, okay, well, I don't think I can give you that right now. And I'm like, well, thank you for being honest with me. And then skedaddle. Bye-bye. Because like, I'd rather someone say I can't give you that than string me along. Because I have had that before. I've had people say like, oh, I can give you that. And then I say, okay, well, can I see? What would that look like? And they don't, live up to what they say. And then I have to make sure that I take the necessary precautions to leave, even if that person's a good person. I'm not saying these people are bad people whatsoever. No, they've been awesome. They're talented, they're great, they're funny, but they're not for me. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we also have to, especially women, because we can get very emotional and like wrapped up into someone, and you can develop a soul tie. We have to know when to let go. and how to just excuse ourselves from the situation, even if it may be devastating, even if you weren't even with them and you just like them as a person, but you're just like, no, I can't be with them. You have to let go. You have to.
So, what are the qualities, according to you, that someone should look for in a potential mate?
Well, you have to align spiritually. Whatever you believe in, I believe in God and Jesus. So whatever mate that I'm looking to date or to get to know, they have to align with that as well. Also, just being equally yoked. How strong is your faith? And that can mean like other things as well. Like I feel like you have to be equally yoked in your mindset and how you think and how you interact with people, because I've actually dated people where I'm pretty bubbly. And if I go out, especially where I grew up in the South, you meet someone on the street, you kind of become friends with them. Like, you say hi, how are you? And I've been with people who are like, why are you talking to people? You don't know them. They're strangers, and I personally cannot deal with that for the rest of my life. So I'm like, okay, we don't align with that. Or they've been disrespectful to waiters or waitresses at a restaurant. And I'm like, wait a minute, like she just forgot your straw. That's not a big deal, like cut her some slack. She may have been having a rough day. Mm-hmm. So all of that you take into consideration. So faith, how they interact with people, their mindset, all of that, they're equally yoked. And then also your purpose. I believe in soulmates, and I believe that your soulmate will help you in your purpose. So if you're talking about a helpmate, that means that you have an area in your life that you need help in. How can you fulfill that area in that person's life, and how can they fulfill that area in yours? So one, you need to know in yourself, what area do I need help in? How can my mate help me? And just know that, even if you're not talking to anyone, just know that within yourself. And then hopefully, whenever you encounter someone, you can assess going on in there if they can help you in your life in some way. It doesn't have to be a big help. But let's say you aspire to be a public speaker, okay? And you need to get your platform solidified. All right, well, someone can come into your life, and if they're like, oh no, I just write books and that's all I do, and I don't promote my books, that's it, then maybe they're not, necessarily that person to fulfill that role in your life. Not saying that you guys can't click and have chemistry, but we can get into that later. But maybe they don't fulfill that specific role in your life. Whereas if you still want to be a public speaker and someone comes into your life, he's like, oh my gosh, I'm a public speaker. I have X, Y, and Z connections. Oh, you're great for that. Here, let me sign you up for this. And bam, you're speaking to thousands of people. Potentially, not saying that that's always the case, but potentially that man may be leading you more into your purpose and you in his purpose as well. And you guys can build together. Because I believe that when you're building a foundation, you have to know what your goals are and how you can help each other build on that. Like, we're not just going to be booed up just to be booed up, but we need to be building something, we need to have something that's generational that will carry on. And then also knowing, back to the chemistry thing, chemistry versus compatibility. And a YouTuber that I follow for years, she introduced that thought to me and it blew my mind. And it's so simple of a thought. And so simple of words, but it blew my mind because I had realized that so many of the men that I entertained, it was because we were just chemistry, we were just compatible in the sense of having chemistry, but we weren't compatible long term. You can have chemistry with a million different people. I can have chemistry with my bagger at the grocery store. We can relate and have fun and kiki and everything, but do I have compatibility with you? Do we align on more than one thing? That's what you really need to take into consideration moving forward. And don't just jump into a relationship just because someone's nice and you like the color blue and they like the color blue. That's not going to help you with the real stuff that's going to happen in a relationship, Oh,
that's deep. I like that. Like chemistry versus compatibility. And
yeah.
Really knowing the difference, because if you just go follow the chemistry, then it could lead you down a path that you're like, I didn't sign up for that, but that's because you didn't acknowledge the difference.
What are some red flags, according to you, that people should be aware of?
Well, I mean, one, if we're talking about everything that you're looking for to be right, just the opposite. Everything opposite will be the red flag. And what I was talking about, me dating that person who was so disrespectful to a waitress for no reason, in my opinion, for something very petty about a straw, that is a red flag. Because how you treat other people is how you may potentially treat me. And sadly, that was proven as fact. I was like, oh no, that's just an isolated thing. No, Sidney, that was a red flag, because when he tried to come at me sideways, I was like, wait a minute, oh, this clicks. everything clicks, And so that's also going back to dating within quarantine. Yes, get to know people in this quarantine, but when stuff starts to open up a little bit more and it gets a little bit more safe to go out, really go meet that person up in real life if you haven't already. And I suggest observe them. Observe how they treat people. Do they walk on the outside of the sidewalk? My my grandpa, he always taught me that, like, the man should always walk on the outside of the sidewalk, and see if he moves with the traffic. Or does he leave you in the dusk? Different things like that. Those show just the common courtesy of a person, and this could be male or female, and it just shows you where they are within themselves, because respect is number one, 100%. And also listening in. Do their stories line up with things? They can tell you a story, and then the next time they say the story, they say something completely different. You're like, wait a minute, don't let that stuff flow and just pass you by. I think I did that a lot when I first started dating, when I was in my teens, because I would clock it in my head, but I would never say it verbally, or I'd be like, I'll make excuses for them. And I'll say oh, maybe they meant that, because I know the story was this before. Oh, they didn't mean to say that. No, now I'm like, wait, can you say that again? Let me just be clear, because they could be a liar, just picking up on all of the things that your discernment naturally is telling you. Make sure you verbalize those things outwardly and not just keep it internally, because you never know what they're going to say. And then also know that if your stomach is turning by anything, it can be something very, very small. Know that that's your discernment. Know that that's a gift telling you, hey, something's not right. And don't just go along with it. Don't be passive about those things. Yeah.
So be willing to listen to that gut feeling, that discernment of, hey, this ain't right. Don't just ignore it and overlook it. Just know that there's something to it, and you may want to consider what that is.
Mm-hmm. That's so true, because a lot of times, most people, they do know deep down, deep down, they know that there is this voice telling them, but they suppress it like that. I think that has happened to all of us. So if you really, really decide that you're not going to ignore that, I think that will be like a good compass.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. So then let me ask you this. So you kind of may have already shared this, but how would you know that you've identified the one?
I truly think that once you have your standards in check, once you work on yourself and you're in a good place, and then that person's a good place, and you know that person has done work on themselves, and you're always still working on yourself no matter what. And you checked all those boxes off that we talked about. You don't see those red flags. I feel like you truly need to have divine confirmation in that. Whether it be God literally telling you himself, or if you just go to your pastor or something that is from something spiritual needs to happen to just really confirm that. That's when I feel like I know, and I have peace, because God is not the author of confusion. So if I have any type of ounce of confusion or chaos or anything that is not of God, then I know that that is not his will for me, and that is not the life that I need to have. Also, if I see that after our union, me and that person, there's an elevation that's happening, then that's also a sign for me personally that I'm on the right route. Not saying that good things can't happen when you're with the wrong person, but since we already talked about before, if you're really assigned to be that person's helpmate, you're going to help, and then there's elevation in that always, because God's going to bless a married couple, you know? So I believe that once I see those signs starting to happen, like us coming together, and then bam, it's like magic, like, oh, we're getting a promotion over here. Oh, I have this opportunity over here. Like, and it only happened like after we clicked. Not saying that those opportunities would not have happened before, but it's like even more of an elevation. Like, it's like mind blowing. I feel as though that's like my sign again that like, okay, this person is probably the one for me. I feel peace. I feel loved. Like, he's giving me everything that I need. I'm giving him everything that I need. We're speaking each other's love language. There's no confusion. There's no conflict. Of course, there's going to be some type of conflict, but like, there's no like major disrespect or anything like that. And they checked all the boxes. We have chemistry and compatibility. I feel like personally, that's the perfect cocktail to know that, you know, that person is the one. But that could differ for other people, and other people may agree with me. So.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love that you added that caveat that it is person specific. And so what works for one person may not always, you know, be the case for somebody else. And so you kind of have to be in tune within yourself and then kind of know what it is that you need. And then also it seems like you lean very heavily on your faith as well.
Oh, yeah.
Being, you know, part of that decision-making process. And so
I really I mean, I don't do anything without praying first. I prayed before I even came onto this. Like, I prayed, I was like, Lord, please let all three of us be in sync. Let us have fun. Yeah, because I mean, that's just always how I've been since I was a little girl. So I definitely desire someone who is on my level with their faith, or more, ideally more, because I believe that the man should lead, not saying that a woman doesn't have a say in the man leading, because I believe that the man should also consult the woman with certain decisions as well. But if a man is leading and I'm taking his direction, then he needs to be a praying man. For me, you know, he needs to be talking to God a lot, because I can't go somewhere where I'm like, oh no, that's unsafe for me. You know, like, I can't go somewhere where I'm like, oh no, because God told me this, because I know what God been telling me. So I need to make sure that all that's in alignment. So yeah, faith is huge.
Yes, I can definitely relate to you, because faith is huge for me too. And that is number one. Like, for me, like, I always wanted God's guidance and approval in my relationship. So I remember I was dating this person before I met Jeremiah. So I was dating this person. At this point, at some point, I started having doubts. So we were talking about, okay, should we continue? All of that. So I started praying even more. I'm like, God, please make it clear, because once I make my decision, I don't want it to be like confusing. You see what I mean? So I asked God, give me signs, because I want them. So I really pleaded God for him to show me clearly. And I got this dream where I was at my wedding reception in my dream. I was able to feel everything in my dream as if I would have been married to this person. And in my dream, I was thinking, when did I get married? Why am I at my wedding reception? What happened? I felt so overwhelmed and suffocated. I started crying in my dream. I woke up crying, and I just praised God and thank God, because I'm like, God, you know, I'm a visual person. You know, I like to experience things. So you give me the answers the way I understand it. And that was like the final thing for me. He gave me the opportunity to feel what I would have felt if I would have proceeded.
Wow.
And yeah, so for me, it was very powerful, and I would have not proceeded with any decision without his confirmation.
And I was going to ask you guys that, because you guys are married, because I'm single. And I want to know, like, how do you guys think that you found the one?
Yeah, and I think to kind of add to what she said, because it's kind of some of the things are similar for me. Like, I look at it like this: like, what's the most important thing to you? Like, what's the most important part of your life? And so for me, that's faith. You know what I mean? It's like we have a lot of different things that we're connected to. So whether like as a therapist, like I'm connected to that. Whether it's your favorite sports team or whatever it is, so you could really connect with somebody around a number of different things. You just have to identify what that most important thing is for you that you're not willing to compromise on. And for me, that was somebody who shared my faith to where I would never have to compromise on that. And we would already have that understanding built in. So faith. And then the other thing for me was communication. And so being that I'm somebody who does that for a living, I communicate with people all day long. That's important to me, that I have somebody that I can really connect with on that high level, at a high level. And so I know a lot of times it's just, one of those things where it's like, okay, well, I can maybe learn to deal with this, or we could build on that. It's like, no, I'm not willing to negotiate on that because like you mentioned earlier about love language, words of affirmation is one of my love languages. And so being able to say, okay, so this person is going to be able to express themselves, openly, and they're going to be able to express their feelings and their needs in a healthy way. That was important to me. So I could teach you a number of things, but I cannot teach you how to communicate with me. So for me, that was an important thing. And then another thing also was just somebody that I could be myself with, somebody that I could have fun with. And love means never having to say you're sorry. And for me, I take that literally to where it's like, I could literally let my hair down and this person's going to accept me and appreciate me and embrace me. And this is the one person that, even though everybody may think a certain way or feel a certain way, she knows the real me. And so I literally feel like, we had that and we're continuing to build on that because it's a lifelong thing. And it's just, it's a journey. And so just being able to have someone you can be yourself with and just continually to just like let yourself, enjoy the ride. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
And for me, like the communication was like super important too. And of course the faith, that's number one. And then communication was number two. Very, very important because I really wanted to be with somebody that understands and that we can like go to that deeper level. And then another thing that for me is important is humor. Like I'm very playful. And I needed somebody that can appreciate that and that can also be playful with me. So yeah, those are like the main thing that I can think of right now.
Oh, I love it. I love it all. I relate to you so much about just wanting to learn and being playful too, because I've had people, and these are just friends, and then people that I've also, went on dates with, where they're like, Sidney, like, okay, like you're too bubbly, or Sidney, like, okay, like, can you be more chill? And I'm a chill person. I'm an introvert actually by nature, but I can like be more extrovert. I mean, I have to be for my career. So, I have to take meetings and everything anyways and be on set. So I have to be extroverted at some type of point in my life. But at my core, I'm introverted. But something about me connecting with another person, I'm like, I get like really giddy, and I get like really bubbly and enthusiastic. And I've had people try to diminish that. And I've had people condemn that and put me down for it. And then also I've had people say, oh, you just want to be so thoughtful all the time. Like, can you just turn your brain off? Like, I don't want to have a deep conversation. And I'm like, oh, I don't have like deep conversations every conversation. But like, if it goes into a deep route, like, do you not have an opinion about this? Is that why you're saying this? Or do you just not care? Or are you just a surface person? Because I can't be with a surface person. Yeah. So I understand you 100%. Communication, speaking love languages is key. And people who actually want to know what the love languages are. Because I've met, I think, 2 people who are like, oh, I don't care about that. Oh, like that's silly. And they wouldn't even want to know or read the book or know more about what
5-minute quiz. I mean, you don't even have to read the book.
Simple quiz. You don't have to read the book. Come on now. But people, they can be stubborn or they just don't want to know. I don't know. I don't get it. So.
Yeah. All right. No, this was good. I appreciate the exchange, the back and forth on that. So I wanted to actually, since you talked about the career and having to do that and being put on, and we talked about the quarantine as well. So how has the quarantine impacted production from that standpoint, as far as like your work and maybe being on sets and movies and things like that?
Oh, geez. Everything stopped. Everything stopped, and it basically is still stopping. Yeah, I've had auditions. Well, we already did this before the quarantine happened, self-tape audition. So, you have lights, you have your camera tripod, you film your audition in your house, send it over to the casting director or your representation in an email. So I've still had those type of auditions because it's contactless, but just going on to sets, that has stopped. So now they're saying that things may be picking up right now. Next month, they're saying that things will be picking up. However, there's also a surge in LA right now with the coronavirus cases. So we may be put under another quarantine shutdown. So I don't know how it's all going to work, but yeah, I guess we're going to have to be taking our temperatures, getting the corona testing before you can even be allowed onto sets. So everything is very, very interesting and very different right now for sure. I've only had one thing since this whole, like, what is it, like 3 months, more than 3 months lockdown has happened, and it was a one-on-one photo shoot. That's the only thing that I've had, and we were very safe, very careful. We had like hand sanitizer and all of that stuff. So I don't know when we're going to get back to work. I was supposed to be filming right when this stuff happened. So all that has been postponed until further notice. I was able to film a little something in my apartment. So that was really nice. The production company, one representative came, everything was Lysol down. We kind of rolled the equipment over so we kept our distance. And I was able to bring everything up, and I had to set everything up myself and film in my room. So I had to set up the lighting, the microphone, make sure I looked good, make sure I knew my lines, make sure everything looked good, Zoom the other actor and the director in so they could see what everything looked like. And literally piece by piece for a 2-minute scene, it took 6 hours. So everything's been interesting, but they're still having online acting classes. So that's been fun to tune into. But yeah, I don't know when we're going to get physical. I don't know.
I feel you. No, I mean, Wrong Cruise is cool. You know what I'm saying? The fans are happy that it's going strong right now on Lifetime Movie Network. And people are just probably wondering, when are we going to get the next Sidney joint,
Oh my gosh, there was a marathon yesterday of all of it, and I was like, oh my gosh. But yeah, I have no idea. And you think about scenes where you have to kiss someone, or you're just sharing drinks maybe in the scene. How are you going to do that? I mean, everyone would have to be tested. They're even talking about having everyone spend the night at the studio so that for sure that no one is going to catch it. That's just so extreme. So we don't know. So stay tuned.
So what is it like to be a Christian in the entertainment industry?
It's actually, for me, it hasn't been that challenging. And I only say challenging because I've met some people in this industry where they've had to face major discrimination because of it, or they've had to turn down huge roles because of it. I've been able to say, oh, I know the script says this, but I don't feel comfortable with that. Can I do this instead? And people being very respectful of that. So everything that I've gone through, thankfully, and it's by the grace of God that I haven't had major conflict. And I've been able to kind of call the shots on what I've been comfortable with, and even say hey, do we mind if we change this line just slightly? It still has the same essence. And it also helps that I am a scriptwriter as well. So I have some type of backing with that. And I've actually noticed that there's some actors who are also Christians, and they don't just say hey, I'm a Christian, or they don't wear crosses all the time. But once you get into conversation with people, I don't know if you've experienced this, but certain words they say, you can kind of tell that they know God, and you're like, oh, what church do you go to? You just kind of flow in it, and they're like, oh, I go here. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're a Christian, and we just have those little conversations, and it's really cool. Actually, one lady I was on set with like a year and a half ago. We never talked about faith or anything on set, but because she followed me on Instagram, she saw where I would do like inspirational videos sometimes, or just like my captions will say something about the Lord. And she was like, oh my gosh, I didn't notice that you were a Christian. We never talked about that on set. And then she like introduced me to this platform where you get to encourage a bunch of people all over the world making little videos on an app. And it's like, I think it's like a Christian app. So that's really, really cool. You know, now I can be a part of that. So I've only experienced good when it comes to that. And that's also an answered prayer of mine, that I've only experienced good being a Christian. So God's just had his hand on that my entire career. And I can't say that it's hindered anything.
Right. I know one of the things you've done on Instagram is taking prayer requests and things like that. And I think that's so cool and like real, like genuine, you know, that you would open yourself up to, you know, help others. How did that all come about?
Honestly, I needed prayer myself. And so I was like, you know what? Other people probably need prayer too. It is a tough time. And I was like, all right, well, let me just see. Let me just put the line out there and see if a fish bites. And I got DMs. I got people that I knew, people that I didn't know, asking for prayer requests. I still pray over them. I still think about them now. And yeah, it can be an ongoing thing. Maybe I'll do another round soon. But yeah, it's just like sometimes when we assess what we need, we can also relay that back to other people and see, okay, if I need this, maybe other people need this too. So yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. So how can someone find you online?
Online, honestly, if you just put in Sidney Nicole Rogers, making sure to spell my name SIDNEY, everything should just pop up, whether it be Instagram at Sidney Nicole Rogers, Facebook, Sidney Nicole Rogers, LinkedIn, Sidney Nicole, everything, every single thing. If you just type in my full name, it'll pop up.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what's up. Wow. Well, Sidney, thank you so much for taking the time and really just sharing everything that you share with us.
Wow.
Truly beneficial for everyone who has a chance to hear this and will hear this. So we appreciate that.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. You guys are so great.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it, folks. That's our show for today.
Thanks again for tuning in.
And as always, like it or not, Beard and Curls is the new his and hers.